a mature student is very different to being a student that has recently graduated from high school. So here are some things that I wish I'd known going into full-time education from my Access course before it happened and before I experienced it. If you are working full-time, if you're maybe a full-time parent, if you have loads of part-time jobs, no matter what you're doing right now, I'm sure you're super busy, because I know I definitely was and still am. That doesn't change becoming a student. If anything, it adds to it. So for that reason, I'm just going to jump right into what I want to say. You do not get your timetable, your full timetable, until a week into the semester actually starting. So if you need to give notice to work, to clients, to family, to whomever, in advance of what your schedule is going to look like, you only get half of it, and then the rest comes later. So that is something that you will have to consider, and I'm sure it's super helpful to know, because I really wish I'd known it. That was one of the hardest things for me starting university life, was giving clients notice, etc. But that's all in my other videos, so I just wanted to point it out. For a lot of courses, a very good laptop is actually necessary. Now this will depend on your course. However, if you're doing psychology, or if you're doing any form of artificial intelligence, cognitive science, anything that requires programming, statistics, coding, you will need a decent laptop. I got through my Access course by using my iPad and quite a rubbish little laptop. It was a cheap thing, but I loved it to bits. But unfortunately, when I went into my course full time, I was doing various computer programming. I use R, which I needed to download. I think there is a cloud version though, so you know, it depends what you're doing. And I think a lot of informatics based subjects, you need a decent laptop. So it does depend what you're doing, but my little laptop that I loved just wasn't enough. It didn't have the capacity to cope with downloading all these things and just being super reliable. I didn't find this out until my first lab, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to fork out a whole load of money for a very good laptop, which I didn't expect. That wasn't an expense I expected to have to pay. I thought that, you know, we would be using university computers in our labs, and for Python we did, but we didn't for R. And honestly, my good laptop, as much as I was a wee bit apprehensive to spend so much money on it, it's a lifesaver. I use it all the time, and I'm so glad I did it. It's one of my best purchases, even though it's one of my most expensive purchases, but that is something to prepare for. Your lecturers will never know who you are unless you give them a reason to. So on my Access course, we had two main lecturers who we seen on a regular basis. They got to know us, we got to know them. A lot of the classes were more like class style, tutorial based, discussion based, non-lecture seminar type things. But this year the lecturers just walk into a room full of 300 students, talk for 50 minutes and walk back out again. So there are some that you get to know if you're having issues, if you go to office hours, but you're kind of invisible to your tutors. You can be very smart and very strategic when it comes to choosing your outside courses. Graham, my partner, got this very right. I got it very wrong. So basically, Graham is one of the very few people in university history. There's a very small percentage of people that can do this, but he is still managing to work full-time hours whilst also studying full-time. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a lot. But if you're someone who needs to work more than like 4 hours a week, then it is helpful to look in advance at your choice courses, your outside courses, and make decisions based on how many classes a week there are, what time slots are those classes in, how many tutorials, do you have exams, all those types of things. So he managed to make it so that most days he gets up super early at like 5 in the morning, he'll work from 6 in the morning until the afternoon. He has uni for a big chunk in the afternoon, and then he'll work into the evening until maybe 7:30 or 8:30. I'm not advising this, definitely not, but what I am saying is you can be clever. Whereas me, on the other hand, I chose courses because they sounded exciting, and also because I was a bit rushed because I didn't have a smooth start to my degree. And I have like an hour here and an hour here and an hour here, and then it all kind of jumbles and nothing is in chunks, and it means that I work 10 hours a week, which is fine, it's okay. I mean, it's still a decent amount. I still have work, I still have my career, I still have my job. I'm very thankful for that. But more than 10 hours would have been great, and if I had thought about the logistics more carefully, I probably could have found a subject I really enjoyed, which also freed up more time. I also screwed this up when it came to exams. So I had 3 exams all in the space of a day of each other. And Graham had 0 exams. So try and be clever, try and manipulate those things and take advantage of the fact that you do get the chance to look at what all your courses entail. And I'm not saying choose a subject you don't like. You are either being funded or you're paying for this, and so you're definitely entitled to take full advantage of university. But if you're someone who actually can't because of other responsibilities, that is an option. Personal tutor is purely an academic provision. If you need any sort of support, there's a separate pupil support service. So in my Access course, my personal tutor was amazing. She gave me like moral support, academic support. She pointed me in all the right directions. She was obviously academic based as well. You know, she helped me write my personal statement. She looked at funding for me. She was, you know, the scholarships. She went over and above, and she was very much someone who I had there to lean on. And I thought that that would be the same in undergraduate life. However, when you go into the wider university, that's not how it works. So I was almost wrapped in cotton wool in that case, and I'm very glad I was, because it was very useful and I definitely needed it at the time. But now I found out that your personal tutor is pretty much only academic, and I ran into some really awkward situations with him because I didn't understand that was what the relationship was. So avoid my embarrassing mistakes and awkward situations by understanding this fact. A lot of attendance is not necessary. That sounds like a dodgy one, and anyone who works in academia will hate me right now. However, it's true, and this flexibility is something that's really helpful for people who aren't just students. I mean, no one is just a student, but what I mean is that being a student isn't the primary thing in their life. So, you know, for people who have families, for people who have a long-term career that they're already working on, just for people who aren't 17 and just coming out of high school, it is kind of important to know how you can use this time. If you really, really, really need to go to that training day for work, but it's on a lecture day, just go, or it's on a tutorial, just go. Like, you really need to chill, especially in the first couple of years. That's the advice that's been given to me by staff, is that the first couple of years, I mean, they count, but your grades aren't the be all and end all. And also, there are so many ways that you can catch up, whether it's asking someone to record the lecture for you. Maybe some of your classes have lecture capture, which is where the university records it and you can watch it whenever you want. Maybe you can take someone's notes. Maybe you can attend, if it's a tutorial, attend one on another day. If it's a lab, look at the lab schedule and attend one on another day. It is okay to be flexible, it doesn't make you a bad student. My psychology, for example, I do get graded for going to labs and tutorials. I get 2% for every lab and every tutorial that I attend. This is great because it means that when it comes to exam time, I can relax a little knowing that I have some sort of grade already sitting there that I already have to build upon. So I always try either not to miss those, or just to go to a different one if I can't make that one. But life happens, and life is okay. It's okay. You are less behind than you think. Bet you never thought you'd hear that one. So I was intimidated going into my first semester of undergraduate. I'm still in my first year, because, you know, I just assumed that the other people who didn't come from an access course, who weren't adult returners, would be in the swing of things a lot more than I was, and would maybe have better skills in various areas. But my access course was fab. I did the University of Edinburgh part-time access course, and it really prepared us for things that these younger students aren't actually prepared for. So I was stressing over all these little details, but actually, I'm actually doing pretty well. So for example, when it came to writing our first ever psychology essay, I was so stressed about it, and I thought, oh my goodness, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I remembered all the little details from the access course about essay writing and referencing, and you know, I wasn't sure if I got the concept right, and I overthought it, and I wrote about 6 different drafts, and I drove myself crazy. But actually, it turns out there were people who were getting similarity reports of like 60% and above because they were copy and pasting. They didn't realise the plagiarism rules. They hadn't done referencing before because maybe their school didn't do that. So actually, we're doing pretty good. We are fine, and in some ways, depending on the type of access course you were on and how much they go into detail about these things and how strict they are on these things, you're actually probably at an advantage. So don't freak the way all us access course people did, because my whole group of friends, they did exactly the same thing, and then we got our grades back and we all got super great grades. So there's definitely benefits to access courses, and you're also not always as behind as you think. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it feels like it, especially when it comes to maths, and these things that weren't covered in my access course in particular. You know, and we had people coming from higher psychology into psychology, and they knew, or biology, and they knew all the neuroscience and things that we didn't know, but you know, we're there to learn, so that's okay. Even if we don't have the prerequisites, we can try our best to go back. But the basic skills, we got this. Our time management, from being family people, from working full time, from managing a business or being part of a business, or even being a shop assistant, life experience definitely counts for something, because you will be able to make connections that other students maybe don't necessarily have enough years behind them to make. So please do not tone down how useful it is to have life experience, and the time management and the, you know, the general life skills that come along with living for longer than the other students is so valuable. So I tried to make this super quick because you will be super busy, and I'm super busy, but I really just wanted to give that information because these are things that I really wish I'd known before I went into full-time education. I have a bit of a cold, hence the red nose and the funny voice and the incredibly pale skin, but it is winter in Scotland, so you know, that happens. Really hope you enjoyed this video and that it was useful in one way or another. If there's anything you want to know, please just drop a comment, or I have an Instagram account, it's @differentdecadeundergrad. I'll put it at the end of the video. You can always ask if there's anything you want to know. Bye!